Greetings and welcome to the Mechanics of Ascension, Part 2, Creating Waves. When I was first confronted by the mechanics of the universal creation and design template, I was skeptical, confused, anxious, and unbelieving. But once I began to put all the pieces of the puzzle together, I was awed by how magnificently and beautifully the whole universe works together. And I hope to convey that to you all over the next while. But we'll take it one step at a time. The real thing, and at the heart of this understanding, is that it is all about waves of light and sound, the electromagnetic properties of the universe. How consciousness comes into being through a light wave, filled with positively charged electric ions, which collides with a co-resonant sound wave that is magnetic, filled with negatively charged ions. So you have this coming together of positive and negative ions and waves. When they cross over each other in harmony with each other, they create the spark of consciousness. Unfortunately, we have been thoroughly dumbed down by false education, false religion, false beliefs, and even false science. If any of us want to assist in raising the consciousness of this planet and assist in our planetary ascension, we have to understand and embody these things. We should understand that the physical form owes its form and animation to the unseen soul. And who we are is not just an individual, but an individuated expression of a greater whole, and a member of the soul families of all of the universe and multiverses, connected through the light and sound waves that exist in our universe. All energy works together, and it is not entirely directed by us. We are participants in it, either voluntarily or involuntarily. We have to choose which we want to experience. We are either a volunteer and we lend our energy to the efforts of ascension, or we're going to be a passive observer. To allay some fears, and before I take us further through the mechanics of ascension, I should state that there is nothing to fear about the ascension process. It is natural, organic, and is just a process. In a sense, it is like entering a shower with uncomfortably hot water that we get used to, and where our bodies are cleansed of all impurities. And once this process is complete, we step out of the shower with a semi-etheric body. We then have to go to school to learn how the semi-etheric world works in the context of the universal template, where we review past lives and experiences we have had, and mistakes we made without judgment. When we look into our mirrors and observe our bodies, what we perceive to be ourselves is not just a physical state body. We are looking at a magnificently crafted being that consists of about 80% liquid, 10% air, and some solid state minerals, all held together by a thin film of membrane we call skin. We don't really acknowledge the miracle and beauty of the design because we are so caught up in survival mode in the physical world. That is, the world that we can see with our eyes, but we don't see beyond what we see with our eyes. Likewise, we can't see that the real person who inhabits this body is real, but unseen. The ascension process will The ascension process we will experience is not normally what happens during an ascension process. A normal process would be that those who are ready to ascend would ascend through a Stargate portal after a stringent vetting process. The Stargates would be activated by those who have been trained to do so by activating corresponding Q sites around the planet. A Q site is a crystal pylon grid that goes about 100 meters down into the ground. Those whose conscious souls enter Stargates would be transformed and transmuted by and transported through the halls of a mentee. Unfortunately, the Stargate and Q-site systems around the planet have been damaged or under the control of the fallen ones, including the halls of a mentee, and it would be unsafe to use them. The halls of a mentee is a portal system that is central to the universe, and the halls of a mentee were placed on Earth a long time ago, but then removed when the fallen ones took over. But they are meant to be returned, and they were returned in 2003, in May of 2003, but soon thereafter they were damaged or attacked by the fallen ones, and they had to be removed. We are through our souls what energizes and animates the body. We get to know this person that we are through our thoughts, emotions, and choices. To truly understand the ascension process, we have to learn about the parallel nature of reality. We live our lives on two different levels, the unseen soul energy level and the physical level. Who we are is an unseen energy form that inhabits a physical body. We cannot see our thoughts or our emotions, we only experience them. They are not seen. We know they are there because they can cause us to do harm to ourselves and harm to others. But we hide them and disassociate our thoughts and emotions that are really the soul energy from our physical experiences. A special dispensation has been created for our Mother Earth and her Earth family, and the natural Stargate and the mentee systems have been bypassed, and an artificial energy passageway created by, among others, the gatekeepers, grid workers, and our off-planetary soul families. The on-planetary work had to be done by those on-planet, and they were successful. Our off-planetary brothers and sisters are working to create the specific energetic conditions to activate ascension that is often called the event. But the fallen ones are trying to thwart their efforts, and they will have to be dealt with first, so that we can get on with this. And it is all happening now. The fallen ones, their cohorts and consorts, will not ascend, but be left behind to their own devices, where they will fight amongst themselves for the meager resources left behind on what is left of the old earth. It is not going to be pretty. For those of us who go through this process, it will be necessary for us to keep an open mind, keep hope and faith alive, and be willing to be transformed. Those unwilling will be left behind, but those will be far and few, because there is a plan in place to persuade everyone to go. I am going to describe the dimensional nature of the evolutionary process as it pertains to the various states of consciousness in each dimension. I never imagined that I would be doing this in a language that is largely and mostly inadequate, because it was designed to describe a material physical world. I can see it through the lens of the energetic non-material world, where physicality doesn't exist, and it stretched my imagination, and I hope it does yours too. It gets quite technical, so I hope you will be open-minded and just go through the process. Truth, they say, is stranger than fiction, but that is only because we have never really explored the possibilities of fiction. I'm not saying that what I will be writing here is fiction, but I am saying that the truth will only be found when fiction has been examined and explored, or so-called fiction has been examined and explored, and found to be true, if it is true. Truth is not carried in the mind only, it is carried in the heart also. And when heart and mind can come together, so I appeal to open your hearts and minds to discover truth. Try to objectively absorb this information through the lens of both your intellect and emotions. It is quite important to understand the wider context of the mechanics of ascension. Not that not understanding will inhibit your own ascension process, but it will make it easier, so that you can go through the thought and emotional processes beforehand and ready your vessel for the journey. This will also assist the necessary critical mass of consciousness that will assist in moving this process forward. As I have already stated, ascension should be understood in the context of the evolution of the soul consciousness and the dimensional and harmonic nature of the universe, and how harmonies syncopate with each other. I know that sounds like a mouthful, so I will try to explain. It's like a musical system. A musical system, you have 12 notes. You get A, B flat, B, C, C sharp, D, E flat, E, F, F sharp, G, and then A. So it's those 12 notes, and when they are in harmony with each other, in other words, they have a certain relationship to each other, and a consistent relationship that creates the harmony of the music. So in Ascension, it's pretty much the same, in that in the waves of light and sound are there's an harmonic spectrum in which we exist. As I showed you in the Fibonacci spiral in an earlier lesson, how this all works. When a conscious soul emerges, when two particles of quanta of opposite charge and polarity, positive and negative, intersect in harmony with each other in the universal wave fields of light and sound, it creates self-awareness of an apparent physical reality. This harmonic conversion and attraction creates a charge, like a spark on a battery when its poles are joined. This creates a conscious awareness of self for the first time, and a conscious soul begins its conscious journey of soul evolution. This conscious awareness of self gives the soul observer status, and a holographic version of itself begins to emerge. And through the universal template of creation and order, it begins to attract other quantum particles that interact and swirl and spiral around each other, positive and negative energies, creating a core morphogenetic field, also called the quark. The morphogenetic field creates an atom that gains speed as it spins and gains momentum and begins to vibrate very fast, a speed wobble in other words, and separates again, creating molecules that reorganize themselves, creating cells. This creates the first dimension of creation, physical matter, or cellular observable bodies. In its primal form of physicality, it does not hold the other dimensional fields or properties, thought and emotion. Bodies in this first dimension include amoeba, bacteria, and elementals. They are primal physical forms of non-matter that evolve later into matter forms like minerals, water, and gases. All of these are found in our physical form, and in the context of ascension, we are their their hosts in this ascension process. I spoke a bit more about this in the evolution of the soul. So if you want to understand a bit, please refer back to that video. Just like Mother Earth hosts us through her own ascension, that is the first dimension material matter. Matter is very dense in the first harmonic bandwidth, but becomes semi-etheric in the second harmonic bandwidth, etheric in the third harmonic bandwidth, liquid light in the fourth harmonic bandwidth, and pure light and sound in the fifth harmonic bandwidth. So these different states of matter, they're called harmonic states of matter, and they're within a certain harmonic bandwidth or frequency range. And so on Earth we have fairly dense matter, which is fairly low frequency. It's in the first harmonic bandwidth, and then becomes semi-etheric in the second harmonic bandwidth, and then etheric in the third harmonic bandwidth, liquid light in the fourth harmonic bandwidth, and pure light and sound in the fifth harmonic bandwidth. Now we will deal with what semi-etheric, etheric, liquid light, pure sound, pure light and sound, what these are in later videos. Third dimensional beings like us host first dimensional beings through their first evolutionary cycle, called the primal cycle. And once these first dimensional beings have been processed through the first to fifth harmonic bandwidths, they evolve into two-dimensional beings and begin a new evolutionary cycle. So what I'm saying really is, during ascension, it's not just humans that ascend, but the entire planet begins to reach a higher rate of vibration. And the Earth hosts us, the humans, to the next bandwidth, and then humans host the other matter beings, the animals, the fish, the birds, vegetation, insects, elementals, and so on, up into the fifth dimension. The first cycle takes about 2,500 years, and I will explain how we host second dimensional beings as well. Each evolutionary cycle takes less time because time compresses. So as you go from dimensions 1, 2, and 3 to 4, 5, and 6, time goes a lot quicker in those higher dimensions because time compresses in highest frequencies. And we'll deal with that when in a later video, where we'll examine the universal circadian rhythms. The second and third dimensions emerge from the nature of light and sound. Light and sound waves downstep their energetic forms and opposite polarities into our manifest experiences as what we call thought and emotions. Now, light and sound waves carry information of thoughts and feelings, and they manifest as opposite polarities of male and female. So, light and sound waves downstep the energetic forms. So in the pure state, they're liquid and light and sound. They downstep that into our manifest hologram, and they manifest as thoughts, thought male, feelings female, positive and negative energies. Second dimensional beings are capable of complex thought, information and design, and complex geometry. They create the design we see in nature. They carry the information of the universal creation and design template and geometry and fractals in their own Merkaba fields. We owe the design of our world to the complexity of the information we carry in our soul template. Second dimensional beings are all around us, in the insect world, in the vegetation world, Each holds the capacity for complex information. Third-dimensional beings have the capacity to not only hold thought and design, but also have emotions to a greater or lesser extent. These include the animals, birds, fish, and humans. Humans have this illusion they are superior to the animals, fish, and birds. That is just an illusion. The only advantage that humans have over their fellow souls is free will and the capacity to rebel against the natural order of things that came from our own corruption by the fallen ones. This dysfunction will be purged from the human psyche when we are quarantined. We host second and third dimensional beings through the ascension process by our thoughts and emotions and our attachment to them and our gratitude for them. We have a lot to learn. We owe our design to our own journey through the light, design and form, wave fields, and sound, emotion and feeling, wave fields. And we owe it back to give it back. It's called equilibrium. So Ascension is a process of hosting other energy forms in our dimensional fields, physical, thought, and emotion, just as we are being hosted by Mother Earth. Through this process into the next harmonic bandwidth, so that we can progress through our own soul evolution. These are the processes that are created as we move through one cosmic cycle to the next. A cosmic cycle is approximately 25,500 years, and that's the time that the solar system takes to move around from the galactic central sun in one cycle, and that cycle takes about 25,500 years. So Ascension is largely about cycles within cycles, wheels within wheels, vortexes within vortexes, at different angles with different timing, all aimed at assisting all soul beings and lifting them through these cycles and relying on those who came before us to lift us to the next consciousness level too. In the universe, we usually have knowledge of who we are. In the universe, we usually have knowledge of who they are, but on this corrupted planet, we don't. So I can only speak from my own experiences. My higher selves have gone to extraordinary lengths to tutor, nurture, mentor, and train me, and explain how things are meant to work in the universe. And I'm passing some of this knowledge on to you. But I'm sure that many of you already intuitively know this. But if you don't, here it is. One only has to look at the self-organizing ability of nature to understand this. This planet, in a sense, is a microcosm of the way the universe works. We humans have gotten so used to our man-made toys, we fail to recognize the self-organizing ability of nature. Each organism and microorganism on this planet works together symbiotically and synchronistically for the survival of each other. Ascension will create a greater awareness of this in the human psyche. When we are in quarantine in the void, we will learn how to be better universal citizens, and we will be taught how it all works together. It is a multi-dimensional landscape that will challenge the very fundamentals of how we perceive reality. For many, it will be most uncomfortable, because in the universe, belief does not exist. So expunging our minds of all precepts of beliefs will be necessary. In the universe, there is only certainty, and everything works in a certain way. This may sound like a mystery, and on earth it is a mystery, because so much knowledge and truth is hidden from us, and we have been raised on a diet of fear and reprisal. If you do something wrong, you get whacked. It doesn't work that way in the universe. The universe is built and pervaded by love in all its forms, and reprisal comes from karma and is self-created. The only one to fear in the universe is oneself, and one's own inability to express love. Anything less than love brings its own reprisals with certainty. This will be a big mindset change for us humans. I've been through the cycle and know how it works. It wasn't very comfortable for me then, and I was on a fast-track learning curve. In fact, I doubted my own sanity, and I spent many nights doubting, haunted, and sometimes in tears, thinking, if this is true, everything here is a lie. I didn't like those feelings, but I persevered to get through my own cognitive dissonance. In fact, I not only ascended to the next harmonic bandwidth, dimension 4, 5, and 6, I also experienced the third harmonic bandwidth of 7, 8, and 9, and I was shown the fourth. In order to understand the mechanics of ascension, we have to, first of all, say what it is not. Ascension is not being yanked off the planet, or floating off into space, floating on a cloud, and going off into the blue yonder to another planet called heaven. That's not how it works, and many have that perception. Ascension is going into a realm with a higher frequency domain. Let me illustrate it like this. The frequencies on our radios and televisions come to our radios and televisions through a certain frequency, and we can listen and watch because our radio or television is able to tune into those frequencies being broadcast by radio and television stations, and we tune into those frequencies. We can hear music or talk or watch and listen. It is all based on tuning into a specific frequency. Well, our consciousness here is tuned into a certain frequency or harmonic bandwidth. So we are watching a holographic live broadcast where we are in the television set watching the movie. We are the show, the actors therein, and the owners and producers of the show. And the owners and producers of the show, are a bunch of renegade vipers who want to control every aspect of the show, especially the information and dialogue. We are in a live show, a holographic show, a kind of a Truman show. We are the characters in the show, bringing our conscious soul energy into the show, and we are being played. We are tuned into the show, but the show is produced, scripted, and managed, directed by the holographic station that is under the control of vile vampire predators who hijacked the show 25,500 years ago. So we're going to tune in, tune up, and tune out, and go into a new holographic show where we produce, script, manage, and direct the show cooperatively. We don't go anywhere when we ascend. Our consciousness simply tunes out of the bullshit hologram into a higher state of consciousness and a new hologram of truth, and the collective of soul beings here collectively enter a new cycle of soul evolution, each on their own cycle and progression of conscious awareness. The way the hologram works is that the frequency of sound and light waves flow through us, and depending on our DNA and soul DNA, the props are set for our own production, script, management, and direction. And all the other actors in the hologram are aspects of ourselves. There is no separation of consciousness in the universe. Some are concerned about whether, when we ascend, we will leave this planet with all its beauty and diversity behind. I don't really know, but what I have been told is that when we go through the ascension process, our soul, Mother Earth, will ascend into star status, and the conscious soul beings here will be hosted by another planet similar to Earth, but not as advanced in soul evolution as Mother Earth. I don't really know what this will look like or be like. What they showed me was a terrain very similar to Earth, with the same diversity and beauty, but more intense and vivid colors, and more unified. All the manifest things around us are soul beings, in different progression through their soul evolution. So when we ascend, they do too, but not all into the same frequency bandwidth. In my own experience of transforming and being transported into higher realms, I had to learn all of this. That is when I learned to live in two states simultaneously. One was the physical and the other the metaphysical. This was a big hurdle for me to jump. I had to learn to guard my thoughts and emotions, and to only express genuine thoughts and emotions, and not preconditioned thoughts and emotions. I had to let go of old precepts and thoughts and emotional patterns and habits. So no matter where we ascend to, that experience will be determined by one's own consciousness, determined by their thoughts and emotions. But don't be concerned, we will all learn this in the quarantine. I can only conclude that the Ascension will be a better, brighter, more harmonious, informative, and a better experience than we have had here. But it will require us to take on more responsibility for our thoughts, emotions, and actions. And we need to start practicing now. In the second harmonic bandwidth, justice is our own karma. What we do with our thoughts, emotions, and words and actions, we will have instant rebuttal and consequences. I have a great quandary, and it relates to the people not accepting that they are a unique soul being, and the conflict that they have with their external world, because they are so identified with the external world and so ignorant of their inner soul identity. When we ascend, it is our soul body primarily that ascends, but the soul body fashions, manufactures, and identifies the physical body, and that is who we will be physically. When we ascend, our true selves, living eternal soul beings whose physical bodies reflect the nature of our souls. What makes each soul unique in the universe, and there is none like you in the universe, is the alchemy of the resonance of your soul that is made up of the symphonies of light and sound waves of different frequencies of light and sound, and your unique experiences determined by your choices that make up your unique consciousness and unique soul identity. Any understanding of the light and sound fields is premised on this one thing about the properties of light and sound, and it is this. Light and sound waves are waves. They come from somewhere and they are going somewhere. They all originate from source, but as they traverse the universe they are diverted, interfered with, and diffuse. So when we reach our soul consciousness, they have a unique identity in the recipe, in the fruitcake that is us. Even the notion that everything in our physical manifest world is an eternal soul being on an evolutionary journey is quite a revolutionary thought. If you can get your mind and emotions around this thought and the accompanying emotions, then you're making progress. We all have a unique soul experience. Some basics to understand. Light and sound waves carry intelligent information. They step down the energy into electric and magnetic, positive and negatively charged particles in our reality fields, and manifest as male and female in our physical manifestation. The sound waves carry the frequencies of our emotional experiences. The light waves carry the frequencies of our thoughts, ideas, imaginations, and intents. They downstep their energy into electric and magnetic particles in our reality fields, and manifest as male or female in our physical manifestation. The process used to step down their energy into reality fields is called frozen light and sound. The downstepping is a process that creates space and time. Understand this and the rest is easy. Understanding that we live in a universe made up of waves of frequencies of light and sound will open us up to the whole vista of new possibilities. How will the understanding of light and sound waves change our reality? The rulers of this world are terrified that we may discover this. From the moment we are incarnated here, we are carefully herded into the corral of a physical world, given an all-caps letter name and number that identifies us, that is entered into a registry that makes us their property, and from then on we are only taught about the physical world. We are then herded into corrupt religions to satisfy the longings of our souls. These religions are purposely filled with contradictions and anomalies, and so we are further herded by the Good Shepherd, and we live our lives ignorant of who and what we really are, what we represent, and are stripped of all our soul identity. So we become surrogates of a system that does not serve us or each other, and herds us through their soul processing system. Even the science they practice and teach on this planet is all controlled information. Free thinkers are quickly pounced upon and sponsored and controlled, like Nikola Tesla and even Einstein, but he was easy to control. If we really understood how the light and sound waves work, and if these technologies were released and made commonly available, nothing would be impossible. There would be no need for money, for health services, and for government as it now exists here. We would discover our own sovereignty and our non-reliance on these artificial forms of control. We would discover that the only enemy is the enemy within, and we could overcome that once we understood how it works. This whole satanic system would collapse. The universe is a much larger space-time continuum, and it is better that we should understand how it works. In the next part I will explain the void, which is very important to understand. It's sometimes described as the vacuum that exists between reality fields and harmonic bandwidths. It's sometimes also called the veil or the shield. And I look forward to presenting that to you. Thank you for watching.